Hi, this is Kelly Elsas with IdeateTV, and we are at the Dances with Films Festival, and I'm here with Dusty, and we are going to discuss his film Marigold. Hi, Dusty.
Hello, Kelly. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Are you excited about the festival?
I am. Dances with Films is a phenomenal festival, especially for independent filmmakers. What a great way to meet people and also have some nice industry connections.
Totally. And you flew in for this?
I flew in for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
From where?
Flew in from Nashville.
Nice.
I've been here a little while, and it's nice to be on the ground in LA and also have this going on where it does attract industry people to it.
Talk to me about Marigold. I watched it multiple times. It's really good. It's a 6-minute short to anyone who's watching, and it's really, really good.
Thank you.
Yes,
I appreciate
very
that.
Powerful storytelling in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very, very personal. And I think when I was making it, I don't think I fully recognized how personal it was. And so I started sending out to some people and they were like, hey, thank you for showing me something so personal. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess. But honestly, when I was making it, so what Marigold is, a few years ago, my parents had moved. And in the process of moving, I found a roll of film in the bottom of a box of my grandfather's stuff. And it had his handwriting on it. And we took and got it developed. And it was 4 minutes of color footage from 1959 on our farm. It was, what a thing to find. I mean, 60 years it had been lost, right? And it was so wildly ordinary, which was the fascinating thing. It wasn't like a ceremony or something like a birthday even. It was literally my grandfather fly fishing and my grandmother cleaning fish and the family sitting on the porch. And my mom was 2.5 years old. And I think what was interesting is what I later discovered about it. I wasn't really thinking about it. Last year, I took a trip to Europe and called my mom when I was in Berlin. We were talking about grandfather being in the war, and she was telling me about him being in the Battle of the Bulge, which is not something that I knew.
Yeah.
And it clicked for me. I was like, oh, I didn't know to ask that question. Like I was so young when he was around that I just never thought to ask, right? And then I thought, well, what else did I not think to ask? And then it kind of clicked for me of, oh, that footage that I have of them just living their normal lives is so perfectly ordinary that I have a version of somebody that I never knew. That I also had this other footage of them from when I was a kid, and I had that evolution from the early 90s, right? And so I went home and I wrote this poetic essay, and then I called my composer and I was like, do you think we could have this done in a couple of weeks? And from the start of me writing it to the finished film was about 2.5 weeks. And it was one of those things where we both knew exactly what it was and we were able to make it and not overthink it.
Yeah. The day that you found the roll of film, what was that day like?
Oh, I remember it because they'd moved and they'd put all of the boxes up in the attic. And it was one of the days when I was back home and my mom was like, all right, we need to go through some of these boxes to figure out what we do and do not need, right? We're like pulling stuff out of it. And then she found that box that has handwriting on it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like we didn't know they had an 8mm camera, and there are no other reels that we know of, right?
Totally.
And we didn't know if it was going to work or literally if there was anything on it at all. So when I just took it to get it developed, that was a wild surprise to all of a sudden have this footage that we just didn't know existed. And it was people that, for all intents and purposes, like I didn't really know them. I knew the later version of them, but
I noticed. When I was watching it, I noticed the word wonder stood out a lot. Mm-hmm. Like you talk about the word wonder, and I was wondering what your relationship with that word is and why it's like so central.
My description of wonder is it's the magic in the little moments, and it's something that I wrote into it. How I made something very personal, and as I was writing it, I went through an active debate of, do I want to make this a little bit more universal in my wording? So pulling out like my grandparents' names and some of the innate details of them. And I just kind of decided to double down on what it was. And in doing so, I needed to say, like, there's nothing really remarkable about them or this moment. I mean, to me, they were remarkable people, right?
Yeah.
But to everyone else, like, they're just normal people. And that's what I'm really trying to convey throughout it. How them existing in this moment just living their lives is now what is extraordinary to me. And then also, as I was showing it to people, what I started to discover was extraordinary to other people, right? Like, it's just a moment in time. And that right there, I think, is the wonder that I'm talking about, right? The normal everyday moments. And the whole point of the film is really like what gets lost whenever we forget to remember the ordinary. And that to me is what is so wonderful.
Yeah. You also talked about presence, like your family's presence, which I thought was really like sweet in a way. And I think the way you wrote this and set it up, it's like people could kind of they feel like they're going like kind of on a story with you, like, and you're kind of like opening it up to be like, you know what I'm saying? Like people can relate in their own way and like their own families and their own lives a little bit, but you're bringing them into that.
I thought that maybe the only way that I could really bring people on the journey, because I made a very conscious decision to do a voiceover and then throw myself on camera. And the only way I could really accomplish that was to become so inherently personal around it, right? And the footage to me, it's still stuff that like gets to me as I watch it, right? I wanted people to be able to see themselves in the footage. And part of that was me directly talking to people, right, through that narration and that voiceover. And the other part of that was to have this sort of call to action of like, I got very lucky. And I didn't want to overstate like a romanticize like a family in any way, shape, or form. Like, these are happy moments for me as I'm capturing this, but nobody's family is in any way close to perfect. But I got lucky here in finding this old footage. And if you start capturing your own stuff and these sort of like ordinary moments, like maybe your descendants can get lucky one day too.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's you communicated that so well, like throughout this footage. Do you have a favorite part about what you made with this?
It's a good question. I haven't been asked before. There's a few pieces I didn't put in. So they didn't tell them, well, it's sort of like, it's funny. Like there's a picture as a film, like an old Oldsmobile they were driving.
Yeah.
I remember that car so specifically. And I don't know why. I was like, oh man, it's so wild to see that car on film. Right. Toward the end, it's the stuff of like me and my grandparents, which is so important because they've been gone over 20 years now.
Right.
And to hear their voices again is what's so crazy. So in the very beginning of it with, I mentioned my grandmother's laugh, right? And then I cut in her laugh underneath that. And like, those are the moments that get my mom and my sister. And like, as I think about it, the voices specifically, I think that we don't think about how much sound matters, but to hear somebody's voice like so long after they're gone hits you in a way that is really, really hard to describe.
Yeah. It's like, they say like sounds are connected to memories and just the relationship you have with someone's voice is just so like deeply personal, which I think is really cool. And like, you definitely touched on, I also think you touched on like everyday life being kind of magical and like you just don't want to miss like the little moments. Also, I think you described your grandma as like a card shark. Yeah.
I remember. Yeah. When I was a little kid, like from like as young as I can remember, we would just sit and play cards at the table and she would just teach me to play cards all day long. And we played so much, what was rummy, like gin rummy. Because it was, it was like what popular card game existed in the 60s or 50s whenever they were all learning cards. But yeah, I specifically remember that. And then she'd make these little crackers. She always had snacks that I'd eat. But I do have those memories. What a funny thing. Yeah, because she wasn't like a full-time card shark or anything. Yeah. She was just like a housewife that raised kids. But it's one of the very specific memories I have whenever she was a kid. Or I was a kid.
Yeah, that's really cool though. What did you cut from this? I'm curious if you cut certain things out.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, so the 4 minutes of footage. I had to reuse some of it. I was talking about this earlier. Some of it in order to carry the story, and there wasn't a ton of it. But almost all of it is in there. There's a little bit was a few seconds. It was like a random car driving down the road that really had no relation to anything at all, right?
Yeah.
I think I used almost every bit of that original footage that I could. The stuff from the 90s, we had a lot more of that.
Yeah.
And that has been, I didn't think about this before I screened, right? Because we got into Dances with Films, and then I don't think I fully realized it was at the Chinese theater, which is wild, right?
Yeah.
And so that's amazing. And so I was like, hey, awesome.
Yeah. We're at the Chinese theater, by the way.
When I was watching it on screen, there's footage of me from when I was a kid, and like quite a bit of that I cut because it was just so much, and that's not what it's about. But in 1995, we made our first trip out here. My parents and I, we road tripped across the U.S. out to California so we could see L.A. and whatever. And so there's footage of me in L.A., like in Hollywood, from 1995.
That's cool.
That when we were filming it, I didn't, like, no way, shape, or form would you think that footage is going to be shown
right
in Hollywood at the Chinese theater, like so many years later.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was one of the things, like, there's a lot more of that footage. But honestly, as I was watching, I was like, well, this is not a thing I ever thought was gonna happen, but like, that's kind of cool.
Like foreshadowing.
One of the funnier things is my mom, whenever we were kids, would set up the video camera and like just record Thanksgiving dinner. And it's like,
that's cool.
It's very far away and you can't really make out what anyone's saying. I was like, what an odd thing to record. All of that was cut because it had nothing to do with the thing. But I have hours of footage of Thanksgiving dinner. So it was like, this is an odd thing to have this much footage of, Mom. But yeah.
That's kind of cool, though.
It's kind of cool, and it's so wild to see. Didn't belong in this film, but I do have that.
Yeah. So your mom kind of is a filmmaker in a way.
Yeah. What a funny thing. Stories, I love story, and I'll like pull from different experiences here or there. And my grandparents gave us that camera so we could record family memories whenever we were younger. It wasn't like everyone didn't have a cell phone that would record video, which is why we have those videos in the first place. Totally. And then all those years later, 30 years later, I found the footage in a box, and then once again, they're the reason that like I'm making films and I'm here, and we've traversed the U.S. with this film. Yeah. It is an odd way, like continues to give, that I think it was like encouraging art and being able to record those memories that you don't really fully understand the impact. I mean, there's no way they could have thought about that. And I think, that's kind of the point of the film in general.
Yeah,
but
that's what makes it so special.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like the fact that it was unexpected, because it's different from kind of when you go in and make a film with a shot list and all this stuff. Like this footage kind of just came to you, and then you created it from there, which is interesting.
Yeah. And writing, I wrote it's basically a poetic essay. It's not a normal documentary.
It's very poetic. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're not a normal documentary where you narrate something. And so it sits in a few lanes, which does make it a little bit hard to program. And I get that. But I had to write that first and then figure out the footage that went over the top of it. And that was a different kind of process. And I don't know how to describe that. And I've been asked that. And the only way I can, it sounds so silly, but when it clicked for me that I knew what I needed to do with the footage, and then I started writing it, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I know exactly what this is, and I can just write this. And that's where I wavered after that. I was like, should I make this less personal? And I was like, no, that's just, it is what it is.
Right.
And I started sending out the first version to a couple of friends to get feedback. And I started to notice the feedback they were giving me was wildly different, every single one of them. But the common theme was that every single one of them was inserting themselves personally into the film and what it is they wanted to see. And that clicked for me after like a few days. I was like, oh, it worked. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no. And that's like from the beginning, you're like, that's really cool. Because I think people think about their own families when they watch it and think about their own experiences. And it's a very powerful thing to do, I think, kind of like right out the gate with something like that. Also, it's like only 6 minutes, but it's so powerful and like so impactful in my opinion, and I think it's just great.
Thank you.
Also, where can people watch it and where can people follow your career?
Okay. I'm trying to figure out where it goes next. So we've got a few festivals. I know there's going to be a screening in my hometown. They've been picking up on that lately.
That's cool.
And I have to sort through that because I have a few other narratives that we're going to screen that are set in Southern Missouri also.
Yeah.
I'm pitching it to a few national outlets that hopefully like that you'll be able to see it on TV, which is the next sort of step. Outside of that, I can't talk about, the best way to find me or any of that is through my social media, which is at Dustbar, Dusty Dale Barker. It's a very unique name.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you.
And I'm Kelly Elsas with IdeateTV.